So sitting with the engine off, tires on the ground, this is how much play my steering wheel has. And that's just slop in the steering box. It's that loose, just as I'm driving down the road trying to go straight. But that's gonna change today. Welcome back to the garage, your place for all things Bronco. If this is your first time here, I'd love to have you subscribe. I'm putting out how-to videos for the weekend mechanic and just talking the Bronco entertainment for the Bronco community. Now, before we get into the install video, I do want to show you this. So my power steering box sits super close to my current radiator. If you notice as I'm doing this install that the radiator is gone, that's why. You don't have to remove the radiator to do this install. Might actually be a little bit easier, but let's go. So I loosened my steering shaft up. This is the telescoping steering shaft. And so this is loose, but I can't really pull it back any right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and just remove my steering box and see if it just comes apart as I'm removing it. If you have the stock steering shaft, that is going to look different in there. So the next thing to do would be to remove your pitman arm, but I've tried to remove this a lot. I've tried a number of times to remove this and I've never been able to remove it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to detach it from the drag link right here and leave the pitman arm on as I pull the steering box out. So if you can get your drag link out, do that. But if you can get your pitman arm off, all the better. But I have tried a number of times and I know I can't get that thing out. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the wheels all the way to the right or to the left. I'm gonna turn the wheel all the way so that the pitman arm can get out from under the frame, so I can get the pitman arm puller on there and separate them. But before I fully separate it, I'm gonna turn the wheel back to center so that I'm trying to keep center as much as possible as I'm doing this upgrade. So just a little tip there, as you're doing this, try to keep everything center, make a little mark so that you can know where center is on your steering wheel. For when you put your steering box, the new steering box back on, you know that you're putting it on close to center. Another tip, if you're doing this, you should probably wait to remove your power steering lines until you're done turning your wheels, because I just have power steering fluid leaking everywhere as I turn the steering wheel. So right now, with the pitman arm on there, I can't get the steering box out. It won't lift. It's supposed to lift straight up, but I can't. So I think I have to find a way to get the pitman arm off. Magic touch, I guess. That came off extremely easily. I have tried that 1,000 times, and I guess today was just my lucky day. So, no, I feel like an idiot. So here's my old power steering box, and then here's the new one that I'm replacing from Tom's Bronco parts. They are so similar to each other. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the new one in and then clean this one up and probably send it off to get rebuilt for Bronco number 2. So step 1 with putting this back in is getting it aligned with the steering shaft somehow. Somehow getting it aligned with the steering shaft. So that's what I am doing. So the next part is, now that I've got it attached to the steering shaft, now I have to drop it down. And that's where it's just, it doesn't want to go. All right, now I've got my steering box in, and my steering shaft is on the output shaft of my steering box the way that it should be. But when I come in my Bronco, my steering wheel is completely off. Like, I mean, that's like a good half turn off. So, you know, you're gonna try and make, you know, everything line up, but sometimes it's just not going to line up. And with your steering shaft, you really have to make sure that it goes on the right way. There's really only one way that it could go on. So now with my steering box installed, my steering shaft in place, and my steering box bolted to the frame, the next thing that I'm gonna do is find the center of my steering box. Now this is really important. Forget about which way your steering wheel is turned right now, and let's just focus on finding the center of the steering box. To do that, what you're gonna do, and you wanna be careful with this because your steering box is empty, it doesn't have any power steering fluid in it. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna turn your steering wheel all the way to one side. So we're going to the right until it hits the end. And then I'm gonna mark the center right here. Then I'm going to turn all the way the other side. Again, doing this very gently because your power steering box is empty now. Like that. And I'm gonna mark the center again. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn my steering wheel back and find the center. Now I know that this is a 3 1/4 turn steering box, 4 turn steering box. So I'm gonna follow this mark and go back 1, 2, and then I'm gonna go back a few, and this is my center point right here. So this is the center of my steering box right here. And now that I know the center of my steering box, I can put my pitman arm on, and I can put my drag link back in the pitman arm. Now remember earlier we talked about marking where your tires are straight. Obviously we've moved on from that, and that's not important anymore because once we're done with this, we're gonna pop the steering wheel off, turn it straight, and put it back on. Now also, I just did a video with this with my old steering box and readjusting the steering wheel. I don't know why I didn't wait for this, but if you have any questions, I take a little bit more time and go into a little bit more detail in that video if you want to check that one out. This is a 34mm socket. Now this nut's gonna spin without the drag link attached to it. So once we get, I'm gonna go back in, straighten this back out, put my drag link on, and I'll tighten everything down once I have it all back together. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted your tires to be straight was so that your drag link would be in the right position to fit back onto your pitman arm. Now, there might be just some small differences between the two steering boxes, so you have to account for those with your drag link. That's why it's important to have an adjustable drag link. Don't forget your cotter pin, boys and girls. Old hose and new hose fitting. So when you do this, make sure that you swap your hoses as well for the best leak protection. So I just finished putting in my new hoses, and power steering pump is all in. Now I'm going to end the video here, but the next step would be to bleed the power steering system with everything hooked up. And make sure when you're doing this, you do this at first with your front tires off the ground to take the load off of the steering box as it's getting fluid into it. Hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.